Today, we're going to be talking about Warcrow, one of the newer miniature skirmish games out there. Now, it's been around for about 8 months so far, and I'm a little late to the game, so let me tell you what this video is going to be and what it is not. So first, let's talk about what it's not. This is not going to be me going through the scenarios, playing the game, talking about rules in depth or anything like this. There's plenty of videos that do that. I learned by watching so many of those other YouTubers out there, and from Corvus Belli, the company that makes this game in the first place. There's tons of resources to watch. What this is actually going to be is a video for maybe someone that's on the fence on if they should get it. Is it fun? What are some weird things that this game has that others don't? That way you can decide if this game's going to be right for you. So recently I got the 2-player introductory set. It comes with 2 war bands. You have the orcs versus the hegemony, which is kind of a mixture of different races. So you have, humans, elves, dwarves. So, kind of interesting in this world, but it does come with a introductory booklet, which has a little bit of lore, not too much, and the rules for the game. It is a stripped down rule set in here. You will have to purchase either the bigger rules or just go on the website and they're free. Free is always good. I think that's kind of the standard when it comes to miniature war games. Usually the rules are free. But there is some stuff to note about this book. It does have some errors in it, and it can be quite confusing for some people, especially me. I don't like to assume things. I want the book to teach me exactly how to play. A lot of the times my assumptions were right on rules, but it's just not clear. It looks like it needed a couple more passes from some editors before making prime time. So let's talk about the 3 scenarios that are in the book. It starts off with a bit of lore telling you what it's about. Now, I don't want to get into too many spoilers here because it was fun having the world and the scenarios just slowly unfold as I was playing. But the overall story that's going on is the northern tribes are landing on the mainland and they are trying to set up camp. The hegemony went to go investigate, and then a bunch of stuff happens. And as you're playing through the scenarios, it has an interesting kind of spin to it compared to other introductory games that I have played. There is some narrative stuff going on. So for example, in the first scenario, there is an object that you can acquire, you can claim, it's an objective. And if your faction grabs it, there's a little thing you can read and it just enhances the story. Depending on who grabs it. If the northern tribes grab it, it reads a certain way. If the hegemony grabs it, it's another way. So I'm going to read the orcs, for example. So if you end up ending the scenario with the actual item, you will go turn the page and it will read,
"The party of orcs return to their camp, and the wise man shows what they have found to the evoker. She handles the object carefully, skeptical. She has never seen anything like it. As she touches it, her fingers transmit information unreachable to the others. Within the vase dwells a powerful spirit, the essence of an entity as ancient as the world itself. The 2 parts of it fit together perfectly, so the invoker joins them. It is better not to tempt the hidden forces at play here."
So that was just a little sneak peek, but as you do things, grab things, interact, the story just unfolds. So it's a nice little narrative way of doing it. And certain things trigger on certain turns, which leads me to the turn wheel, which this is the first time I've seen this in a war game. It's pretty unique. So we have our wheel right here. And this just marks what turn it's on. You can have an event token, let's say, on the 5th turn. And once the 5th turn happens, you flip it over, read what the scenario says it does. Very interesting. You also track maybe spells that last a certain duration. So if you cast a spell and it lasts for 4 turns, you would mark that on this wheel. So there are turns and there are rounds. So a turn goes back and forth. So it's alternating activation. I go, then you go, then I go, then you go. But what's different is the end of the round changes depending on the scenario. So let's say the round ends on the 3rd turn. So what would happen is alternated activations. So I go, you go. Then it goes down to the next one. I go, you go. Goes down to the next turn. And then I go, you go. And then the round ends. So it's very different compared to other games. So like 40K, for example, you on your turn, you move all your units and then pass it to the next player that you move all your units, the round's over. In this game, the scenario dictates the rounds, the turns inside a round, which is pretty interesting. It leaves a lot of variety that could happen in your games. So that's something that I do like about this, but I also don't like because it's a little more to track. Plus, you are stacking a lot of tokens on here. You could end up with tokens all over the board, and if you accidentally hit it, turn it, they fly all over the place, and it's not fun. That has happened to me while I was playing. I just put my hand down, flip the entire turn board over. So let's talk a little bit about what comes in the 2-player introductory box. So you do get quite a bit of terrain. This is some thick cardboard-like terrain, fully printed on both sides. So you get a shed and a house. They just pop out and easily assemble, which I really appreciate that. So you got a couple of these. In addition, you have some walls. You get 4 fences, and then some of these flat terrain pieces that are double-sided. You got a lake there, and a forest, rocks, things like that. So from a value perspective, these are really nice that they included that. It keeps the price point lower than, let's say, a Games Workshop one that comes with a plastic terrain, which will hold up longer, but these are still high quality. They are paper though, so if you get them wet, they're not going to last. If you keep taking them apart, putting them back together, they're eventually going to wear down. So as long as you're careful with them, they probably will last you forever. And what is terrain without a play mat? So switching over, we can see that it does come with a paper playmat. Something disappointing about it, it is one-sided. So as you see right here, it's just blank on the other side. I do wish that it came with a cardboard one of those sturdier, thicker ones that'll last, but maybe they'll do that in the future. Hopefully they do. Moving on, another thing that's a little different about this game is the dice. As you see, the dice right here, they all have different symbols that you might not be used to, but it is a very easy system to learn. I will actually say it is easier than just regular dice because you have to do less math. In the end, you don't really have to do math. You're just matching up symbols. Let's say for some reason, it's just 2 dice that are rolled. The attacker rolls this dice. They get a success. The defender rolls this 1 dice. And they get a defense. These 2 cancel out. So basically he attacks and the defender blocks. And then that's it. And then you just do that with the rest of the dice. It is a very simple system. I thought it was going to be more complicated. And there's a little more to it than that. But that is the basic idea of it. Again, watch some gameplay videos, tutorials, how to play. The advantages of this is it allows for more uniqueness without all the math. The downside is you have to buy their dice. You can't just use regular 6-sided dice that are compatible with all the games. So it's a disadvantage for some, but I think the disadvantage is more for lack of convenience but the game is still better with these specific dice. The next thing is movement. So movement is not in inches, so you can't use a standard ruler. It's in something called strides. So they give you two rulers. So you got your regular long ruler, and then you have your shorter one for shorter distances. It's a little annoying, just like the dice. It's not convenient because these strides are measured in a specific way. So you have to have a ruler that's specific to this game. You can't mix and match what you already have existing from the other games. So the next thing we need to talk about are the miniatures themselves, because while I think they have a lot of good things going for them, there is one big con that I find with their miniatures. Let's take a look at this guy right here. So as you can see, the sculpt is very nice. Lots of detail going on. But as I turn, you can see the big problem there. Look at his shoulders. So on the shoulders right there are a lot of gaps that you have to fill. Now, you could just glue them together and not worry about it, but it is a little bit of an annoyance if you are trying to enter a contest with it or you're very particular. So someone starting out is not going to appreciate all those lines. They also have some mold lines that you're going to have to cut off. It's just how they make it. This, I believe, if I remember, it came in maybe like 4 or 5 pieces. And most of these models do come in less pieces than, let's say, Games Workshop one. They don't come on sprues, and you have to use super glue or some other type of glue for them. You can't use the plastic glue that you would use for Warhammer. So he glued together very well because he has a lot of shoulder pads, so you don't see the gaps as much. But again, these are great looking sculpts, and I know they're just going to get better with time as they go and make this process better. They get more money into the company, more QA, just making sure things don't slip through the cracks. Like this one. So this one came to me missing a piece. So it's missing the sword in that bottom hand right there. There was a big problem assembling these things. They didn't fit together as well as I thought they would. So I was struggling with a couple. Some just were flawless. They don't give you instructions. They just say, you can figure it out. And you can. It's not bad. But it's just, I wish that they had more attention to detail when it came to, the sculpts and how they fit together. But in the end, everything is perfectly fine because they actually have a form that you could fill out where if something's missing or damaged, they will just send you a new one. You just have to provide them some pictures and fill out, a couple things. So now that we have the miniatures assembled and we need to play, but what do they do? In comes the cards. You have your stat cards here, which explains everything that the unit does. It is double-sided also, so you have English and then you have Spanish on the other side, and it does look pretty intimidating. It shows a lot of stats, a lot of colors, a lot of dice, a lot of things. But once this is explained in the rules, it is super simple to follow. It's just a lot of text, a lot of things. Don't worry about it. And the last thing I want to talk about is the gameplay, and is the game actually fun? And with Warcrow, there's a lot of things in here that other games don't have. That you have to pay attention to. So for example, your units can get stressed. Now they get stressed in different ways. Either they're losing battles, maybe there is a spell or an effect that hits them, or you as a commander could stress them out by making them make another action, or by making them focus and add a modifier to the actual dice roll. So you want to be able to manage that stress throughout the battle, which can add another layer of complexity. That's something that some people like, some people won't. I'm, again, on the fence about it because I like it. It's a good idea. A stressed unit could abandon and just leave, just flee. So I like the tactics of it. It's just another thing that you have to track. There's also magic. So when you cast magic, there is a negative outcome every time you cast it. And it just builds and builds and builds on that character. So if you're just flinging spells left and right, things don't really turn out too well for that spellcaster. You can also counter another wizard or mage's spell with another mage, and that's interesting also. It depends on how close your mage is to their mage. It has command points that come into play, similar to, Warhammer. And the scenario and the turn tracker really give it a kind of an endless possibility of things you can do with these scenarios as they release them. So instead of it just being a map with objectives that are just laid out on it, it could have certain characters that you have to encounter. You could have to go to this one objective, pick it up, and then deliver it somewhere else. And then that could trigger something that happens in the world. So it's very interesting. This game is one of those things where they gave you a base, which seems very limited because not all the factions are out, and they're slowly spoon feeding that to you. And eventually, I anticipate that they're going to come up with some pretty cool things in the future. Like maybe some battle packs that have certain models with multiple scenarios in it. That way, you're not just conquering objectives and killing each other. And then, oh, I collected 4 points. That's it. And Warcrow to me is all about options. And I think that's what's going to really determine if you want to get into this game or not. Do you want a game that the possibilities are, almost endless? I would say that this game is for you. As for me, I really enjoy this game and I'm going to continue to play it and try to grow it at my LGS. The issue is not many people know about it. This is just a new game and I think they're going to slowly ramp up and you'll start seeing it more in stores. So let me know what you think. Are you having fun with it? Is it not fun? Is it too involved? Do you not like the tokens and the dice and the movement? I want to hear all about it. If you have any question for me about the game, just leave me a comment. And be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. This channel I have is a mix between trading card games and now war games with a little bit of 3D printing. And I just realized I like games. So I'm going to continue to be making these videos as long as people want to watch them. And I will catch everyone next time.